The Pickett dynamic also has emerged in Detroit.
Yeah.
Where I'm not going to make any snarky comments about hand size comparisons between Pickett and Jared Goff. I'll leave that to others. I'm just not in the mood for that today. But
it's a handoff.
but Kenny Pickett reportedly going to visit the Lions this week, and look, that the moment that Dan Campbell says we think we can win without an elite quarterback, that is not the kind of glowing endorsement that you'd be looking for if you're Jared Goff. They knew what they were doing with Goff. And look, folks, I know that every team at some level of the organization will tell you every year their goal is to win the Super Bowl. Even the Lions, who have never even been to a Super Bowl, who haven't won a playoff game in more than 30 years, they will tell you, someone in that organization will say, hey, what's your goal? Our goal is to win the Super Bowl. No, it's not. And last year, they're just trying to begin their way out of their latest reboot. And they had an opportunity fall into their laps where they could pick up 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick for a quarterback who wanted out. And as part of that, they had to take on a quarterback that the Rams desperately wanted to shed. They wanted to get rid of that contract. And, Martin Mayhew, the Washington GM, complained several weeks back that it was kind of an inside job and no one else had a chance. Well, you had Brad Holmes, who went straight from the Rams to the Lions, took over as the GM. Holmes knew what he was doing. Campbell knew what he was doing. They understood what they were doing. They were taking someone else's trash on as their starting quarterback, and they were just going to hold their nose and get through it for a year or two. That's what they're doing with Jared Goff. They know Jared Goff is not a franchise quarterback. They understand that they are just trying to hold it together and get through a couple of seasons while they build the culture that they believe will be their long-term future. And they picked up a free first-round pick for taking on this guy. That's it.
That's it.
And bringing in Kenny Pickett is the closest thing to an acknowledgement of that we're going to get from the Lions. But, Chris, it intrigued me because I've been trying to speak the Baker Mayfield to the Lions into existence.
Yeah.
The moment they start taking a look at these rookie quarterbacks, why aren't you taking a look at Baker Mayfield?
I hear you.
Why aren't you?
I know. I don't think it's crazy either, Mike. I mean, when you first said it, 3 weeks ago, I kind of went, I don't think so. And then I feel like within 24 hours, the more I thought about it, I think it actually makes a lot of sense. It'll be interesting. I think even with this, the Lions, I mean, you're right. They knew exactly what they were doing here with Jared Goff. They knew it. They were just into acquiring the assets of the trade and getting the picks. And then, with the Kenny Pickett here visiting too, that's where, it speaks to what we were talking about. The Lions aren't bringing him in town to pick him at number 1, everybody. This is the tea leaves are showing the quarterbacks are falling. Kenny Pickett's falling. This is for pick 32, why he's being brought in there to talk to them right now. That's what this is for. So that's where this is crazy. I just feel like the NFL draft right now is, the Baker Mayfield aspect. We got Jimmy Garoppolo out there. We got a few teams that need quarterbacks. And then we got rookie, young, draftable quarterbacks that I think the NFL's not sure about or doesn't want to invest at least a high pick on. And it's the first time in a while, Mike, that I can say I have no feel for who's kind of hot on the quarterbacks or where they might go. It's the least feel I've had. I've had a pretty good feel almost every year, at least with a handful of these guys that go, I think they like this guy, that team likes this team. I'm more in the dark this year than ever before as far as who with who.
There's another reason for the Lions to do their due diligence on Kenny Pickett, holding that 32nd pick in the draft.
Right.
If Pickett is sliding in that direction and someone starts contacting the Lions about trading into that spot, the more they know about Pickett, the more intelligently they can negotiate with that team. I've made that point before.
You have, right.
At the top of the draft. And when I saw Pickett going to the Lions, like, surely they are not doing their homework in the event that someone wants to trade up to number 2 for Kenny Pickett.
Right.
This is 32 on the clock. The first night of the draft is coming to a conclusion. Somebody wants to springboard back into the round, and at least the Lions can say, hey, we brought this guy in here, and we know this, we know that, we think this, we think that, we think you need to offer us a little bit more if you want to be the team that comes up and gets this guy. So they at least can say it, and it's not just BS.
Sure.
they can back it up. We brought him in.
Right. Right. Bring him in, and who knows? Maybe he has a grade on their board to where if he is sitting there at 32, he was the 17th rated player on their board where they go, so we got to take him now. It's too good to be true. Or maybe, even if he's on the board at 27, maybe they're the team that wants to trade up a few spots to make sure they get him. I think there's a lot of things there, but what is weird is the quarterback conversation for the 2022 draft is different than years past. And it's 2, maybe 3 in the first round, certainly. And I don't think any are going to go in the top 10. I don't, Mike. Because here's the other thing. As I get a feel for the draft, Mike, we might not have like the superstar Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett in the class this year. But the one thing that's very apparent to me as I go through each position group is there's 2 or 3 guys at each position group that clearly stand above the rest. And it does fall off after that. And that, to me, is where I think also is going to hurt the quarterbacks, because I think some of these teams in the top 10, 15 are going to look at it and go, wait, there's only 1 or 2 of these guys to be had here that can fill our desperate need on our football team. Do we really want to go with the quarterback we're not sold on, or are we going to get this guy that we are sold on and he can help our team for a long time? And I think that's going to play a factor in this, Mike, if that makes any sense.
And the way the Lions contract with Jared Goff is structured, they can dump him after this year. They were kind of stuck with him through this year. They inherited an 8-figure roster bonus that was already fully guaranteed for this year. They took him on knowing that he was going to be on the team for 2 years. That doesn't mean he's going to be the starting quarterback all year this year, but it would make sense for them to be exploring other options. And yeah, they could get into a little bit of a cap crunch if they end up paying a lot for Baker Mayfield. But again, They've got to be thinking about life without Jared Goff. Kenny Pickett could be the answer, or it could be laying the foundation for a trade at the bottom of round 1. But regardless, that got my attention, especially because I am trying to will Baker Mayfield to Detroit into existence for a reunion with his good buddy boy who made him the first overall pick 4 years ago. And it just fits. And it's funny, I got Lions fans pushing back on it like, you don't have a Super Bowl team up there, folks. And I would take Baker Mayfield over Jared Goff right now.
Definitely.
Am I missing something?
No, you're not missing something. 100% definitely would take that. But I just want to make sure. So you're pushing that harder now than Baker Mayfield to Pittsburgh. You're more onto the Lions.
Either one.
Yeah,
I'll take either one.
You like either story?
I don't think Pittsburgh's happening.
Yeah,
I don't think Pittsburgh's happening because I don't think Baker Mayfield is going to push back hard enough to engineer his release or wait to be released if the Browns would push it all the way until August, right? Or even, the ultimate chaos would be the Browns keep him on the team up until the trade deadline. But he needs to go somewhere where he can play, and the sooner he gets there, the better. So Pittsburgh would be fascinating. I don't see the dominoes falling that way. There's still a way for the Lions to wake up and say, well, if the Panthers are after him, if the Seahawks might, maybe we should go do this, especially if John Dorsey is chomping on his gum in the ear of Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, extolling the virtues of Baker Mayfield and trying to get them to come around. I just think Mayfield fits the mentality. That's a place where you welcome that mentality, and you assume that Dan Campbell can control it, because if push came to shove, Dan Campbell would shove Baker Mayfield into the wall, and there's nothing he could do about it. Not that we condone that, but I'm just saying, to the extent that you got a couple of alphas in the room, when Dan Campbell stands up and hovers over Baker Mayfield, I think Baker Mayfield pipes down pretty quickly.
I would agree with that. I think a lot of people are going to pipe down pretty quickly when Dan Campbell stands up. Unless you're like an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, you're going to have your work cut out for you against Dan Campbell. That's for sure.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.